Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options and Play video update. I didn't get the earnings on the radar to you on Friday, so you're getting them Monday. So, still plenty of time to get your game plans in place because it's actually a surprisingly busy week of earnings considering how late in the quarter it is. So, after the close on Monday, the busy week really gets going with Zoom. Last quarter was just absurd. The magnitude of the beat and also the magnitude of the move. I mean, just incredible. So this time around, they're pricing in about 65 points on options, and you have to imagine that expectations are absolutely through the roof based off of what it did last quarter and the number it put up last quarter. I mean, I do think it will be good, um, but it's just hard to figure out what type of surprise would be needed to see this rally 65 plus points. And the options they seem a little bit too expensive to me. So I feel like I'm probably going to leave this one alone. As much as I'm interested in it, it doesn't seem to really set up well for a trade. So I think I'm just going to leave it alone. For the open on Tuesday, really nothing of interest. After the close on Tuesday, Salesforce. Now, I thought that this was a real good setup for a ramp into the report and even like an earnings potentially an earnings play. But then they had that update, the headline saying that they could potentially be looking to buy Slack. So the weekly options are pricing about 16.5 points, and I I don't know if earnings are going to be relevant. It seems like the any major update with Slack is probably going to take priority. So whether they confirm it or deny it or announce it, right, or say there's some negotiations, yada yada yada. I mean, I feel like that's probably going to take priority over earnings right now. And I do think that if they call off the deal or say that they're not going to be pursuing the deal, and they beat substantially, kind of similar to last quarter, that it could be up quite a bit, just based off of how much it sank when the headline was first announced. But that's only speculative, and I feel like you need a few things to go in your favor for that to work out. But I feel like maybe it'd be worth a shot. Also on Tuesday after the closed box, so about 225 is what's priced in. Those are monthly options, though. Typically a pretty consistent move on earnings. Option pricing closer to the top of the recent ranges, but those are also monthly contracts, so there's a couple extra weeks of time value. It might be worth a look for a volatility strategy if I can get overall risk down. If I can't, maybe just look at something on the bull side, maybe. Wednesday before the open, nothing of interest. Wednesday after the bell, really big software day. So CrowdStrike, pricing at about 15 points. Stock is right at its 52-week high. Seems to have a pretty high bar going into this quarter. It closed red last time around after beating and raising, so I guess I'm slightly more cautious up here. Uh, I think I think I prefer to leave it alone and see if there's a swing trade opportunity, right? If the numbers are good and the stock doesn't do a whole lot, because it seems like there's a really nice setup taking place or taking shape, like with like 150, 155 level. So I might sit out earnings and see if there's like a quick tradable pattern right after the report, especially if the numbers are good and this pattern, um, and it maintains this like strong pattern up here. Okta. About 18 points is expected on this one. It hasn't been too volatile around earnings recently. Average move's been a little bit smaller, and it closed red last quarter after beating and raising. So at 18 points, pricing seems kind of high, just based off the recent past. So I think I'm going to leave it alone. But like CrowdStrike, if the numbers are good and the action is like flat and the pricing of the option comes down, then maybe it sets up for a swing trade. Snowflake. So talking about high expectations. 45 points is what's priced on this. First report as a public company. Stock just off its all-time high, and today it put in a new high. Just running absolutely straight up into earnings, and I think the risk reward is mostly to the downside at this valuation. But it also could be like a hard stock to bet against. I do think, though, if the numbers are only in line or even if they miss, I'd expect it to be down a lot, a lot, a lot. But I don't know. It might be a lower probability scenario, so I'm not sure that I'm going to trade this one. Splunk, about 17 points is what's priced in here. I think this is one of the tighter setups of the software names reporting Wednesday, but option pricing seems maybe a little bit higher than normal. I guess it's not like too elevated, but I mean, based off of some of the moves it's had, it seems a little bit higher. Um, I think I think the fact that they've had some mixed quarters maybe has weighed on the movement of the stock around earnings recently. So it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard laying out the money on options because the quarters have been real mixed. Plus, it had a little bit of a pop on. They had an analyst day and like talked some like longer term financial targets. So it might be a little bit more muted, but if they have like a real clean beat and raise, tight pattern, and it could get up into like the 20s, it could be a pretty nice mover. So something, it's more speculative, but I might look at something on the bull side a little bit further out of the money. And then last on Wednesday is Zscaler. So 16.5 points is what's priced on this. Another software stock, closer to 52-week high. Had a beat and raise quarter in September too, but also finished red. I mean, like CrowdStrike, like Okta, I mean, like these charts look very, very solid, but it's just, again, like high expectations and elevated option pricing. So I want to participate on these software plays because they're names I look at on a day-to-day basis, but the setups just seem challenging. So I guess for most of them, I'm on the fence. I feel like I have had more success trading these like after earnings or in the run up to earnings and less on the actual event. So I might just continue to focus on that, right? Like look for like maybe a quick trade right after, or maybe like a quick trade right into earnings. But in terms of actually taking options into the print, I'm more on the fence. For the open on Thursday, Dollar General. So about 10.25 is what's priced in here. Dollar Tree earnings last week raised the expectations for this. Chart looks solid, not too extended. Option pricing isn't out of control either. Maybe worth a look on the bull side, especially if premiums fall later in the week. Kroger. So $1.85 is what's expected here. It really hasn't been acting well at the lower part of several month range. Earnings, I mean, they haven't been huge events, and I don't know. I think there might be better setups than this one this quarter. Michaels, another retailer, about 2.25 is what's priced in here. Those are monthly options. I actually think this is kind of an interesting setup. Maybe volatility strategy, but also potentially just speculative bullish. Very heavily shorted retailer back to the Big Ten level. Option pricing, you got to go out and pay for the monthlies, but even then, I mean, it seems like there could be some room, especially if the numbers are particularly good and it starts to squeeze to the upside because it's very heavily shorted. After the close on Thursday, some more software names, more tech names actually. Cloudera, about $1.75 is what's priced in here. It's been mentioned as a potential M&A candidate a few times. Nothing's materialized, obviously. That's why the stock is still here. Got hit pretty hard last quarter on earnings, so I mean, it really needs a good print. Setup seems decent. Option pricing is not high either, and I guess there could be room on both sides, but I do think that the upside probably has more potential. Docusign. So 23 points is what's priced in here. Had a solid print last quarter, but expectations were just through the roof because it followed Zoom. So it had this huge move ahead of time, and then when they actually reported it, got hit. I think it's pretty interesting for an earnings play because it's been quiet, hasn't done a whole lot. The pricing doesn't seem too out of control. It might actually set up for volatility strategy based on the recent run, because if they disappoint again, maybe it rolls back down into like the recent 200 like kind of congestion area. And if it doesn't go crazy after Zoom reports, maybe I might look at something like a straddle or strangle, especially if I can get the overall like premiums down. Marvell. So right at 52-week high, top semi. The president 3 points for earnings. And I don't know if it's going to be a huge move on earnings because the IPHI deal hasn't closed yet. Sometimes these names like they don't have like huge responses to earnings while in the process of closing like a big transformative deal. But I mean, stock acts great. I mean, definitely a top semi. So might just continue to focus on swing trades on that one. And then lastly, on Thursday after the close is Ulta. So about 23 points is what's priced in on this. Signed a big deal with Target, and that's why the stock had this huge pop a couple weeks ago. And I think that's going to be positive for Ulta going forward. But I mean, it's probably not going to be much of an impact this quarter. Stock looks pretty solid technically, a little bit of like a higher consolidation. I mean, this one definitely has a history of big swings on earnings. This quarter maybe a little bit different. I guess I'm on the fence with it. I guess I'm on the fence more so, just because the option pricing is a little bit more than I would expect. But I do think that you can make an argument. Maybe there's like 30 points if it's like very disappointing or particularly good. So this is one though I might look at as more like a game time decision. See how the week goes and see if the stock is still in this vicinity and the option pricing comes down. But I'm eyeing it. I'm just undecided with it right now. And then before the open on Friday, wrapping things up, big lots. So 7.5 points is priced in on this. Those are monthly options. It's been a pretty tight base. A couple months hanging around 50. Overstock crushed it on the quarter. I mean, the stock didn't act great, but they did crush estimates, and I think that should be positive for big lots. A pent-up breakout, right? You get a measured move above 55, 56 resistance. That could be closer to 60. So it's not a name I focus on too much, but I do think the setup's not bad. Or actually, maybe even look at like Overstock as like a sympathy play on this because it could move off of those over off the big lot numbers, kind of like how big lots move a little bit off the Overstock numbers. All right, and that's it. So you can see a lot of big names, a lot of big expected moves. I'm expecting a lot of headlines and a lot of crazy action. So I think it's going to be overall a pretty busy week. All right. So if you like this video and you're looking for more information on trading earnings with options or more information on swing trading with options, please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options to play. I hope you have a wonderful night. Stay well, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.